They say every place has its rules. Some are written on paper, enforced by law. Others are whispered warnings, passed from mouth to mouth, generation to generation, until they blur into legend. But legends, like smoke, don't exist without fire. In the small mountain town where the sunken mine still sleeps beneath layers of stone and silence, there was only ever one rule worth remembering. Never venture below the seventh shaft. That was the line drawn in coal dust and blood. No questions, no negotiations, no exceptions. For as long as anyone could remember, every man who stepped beneath that depth was either never seen again, or returned in such a state that his family wished he hadn't. The mine was a monster disguised as a workplace. By day, it was loud, busy, filled with the clang of tools and the cough of men who traded health for wages. By night, when the shifts ended and the tunnels lay hollow, it was different. Silent, watchful. It felt as if the mine itself exhaled, waiting for the next heartbeat to enter its ribs of stone. It was more than darkness down there, it was a hunger, stretching deeper than the earth itself. And yet, hunger always attracts the curious. Humans cannot resist the forbidden. That rule, never below the seventh shaft, was less a warning and more an invitation to temptation. And temptation has always been the fastest way to die. On one particular night, the mine's rule was broken once again. It began, as these stories so often do, with laughter. 3 miners, all younger than the mine itself, full of arrogance and cheap whiskey, decided that they were braver than the men who came before them. Their names don't matter. Not really. The mine would take their names, their faces, their futures, but in the beginning, they still had them. Let's call them Tomas, Elijah, and Marco. To their friends, they were brothers. To their families, they were breadwinners. To the mine, they were meat. They had finished a late shift and lingered in the tunnels long after the others had left. Their lanterns were steady, their boots heavy with coal dust, and their courage sharpened by pride. They joked about the seventh shaft, about the whispers of faceless figures and humming voices. Tomas laughed the loudest, his grin wide under the flickering glow. If the old men were right, he said, then the seventh shaft would have eaten half this town by now. But it's still here. And so are we. You really believe shadows can eat a man? His words echoed off stone, but echoes have a way of returning slightly. Changed. The laughter of 3 men came back sounding like 4. Still, they pressed on, past the first shaft, where wooden beams groaned with the weight of history, past the third, where the walls wept a slow, steady drip of groundwater, like the mine itself was bleeding, past the 5th, where the air grew cold enough that their breath curled white in the light of their lanterns. Finally, they reached the 7th. It looked the same as any other, just another gaping wound in the earth, reinforced with timber, smelling of damp stone and old rot. There were no signs posted here, no chains, no barriers, only silence, deeper and heavier than anywhere else in the tunnels. Most men stopped here. They turned back, satisfied with their shift, unwilling to tempt the curse. But Tomas wasn't most men. He held his lantern high, peered into the darkness beyond the 7th shaft, and smirked. See, just another tunnel. You boys scared of shadows. Elijah hesitated. Marco shifted uneasily, and then, as though the mine had been waiting for that exact hesitation, a draft of air slithered out from the blackness ahead. It wasn't the cool breath of natural airflow. No, this breeze was warm, damp, almost like the exhale of something alive. It brushed across their skin and carried with it a faint sound. Ah. At first, it was low, almost imperceptible, like the thrum of distant machinery. But there were no machines beyond the 7th shaft. The hum rose and fell in waves, vibrating in their bones. 3 men froze, their laughter forgotten. The sound was unnatural, layered, like dozens of voices blending into one low, steady note. It was both too human and not human at all. Wind, Tomas muttered quickly, though his voice cracked as he said it. Just the wind. But even he didn't believe it. Still, they stepped across the invisible line, into the 8th shaft. into the unknown. And as soon as their boots touched the stone floor, something shifted. The air grew heavier, pressing down on their lungs. Their lanterns dimmed, though the oil was fresh and flamed strong a moment earlier. Shadows bent wrong, stretching not away from the light, but toward it, as if raching. The hum grew louder. Then came the first nervous joke. Elijah chuckled dryly. Guess the ghosts down here pay the light bill. Or maybe they're just shy. But no one laughed. The mina didn't appreciate jokes. They walked further. Every step echoed twice, once beneath their boots, and once slightly behind them, half a beat late, like someone following. They turned. No one there, only blackness, pressing close, swallowing sound and light. Minutes passed, or maybe hours. Time in the mine bent like warped timber. The 8th shaft should have ended. It should have led to stone walls, or another tunnel, or at least some sign of human hands. Instead, it stretched endlessly, twisting deeper, like the earth itself had made room for them. Panic prickled at Marco's skin. He swore he saw a figure ahead, standing perfectly still. They called out. No response. They stepped closer. Their lanterns revealed a shape. A person, but it wasn't a person. It stood like one, tall and still. It wore the outline of shoulders, arms, and legs, but where its face should have been, there was nothing. No eyes, no nose, no mouth. Just smooth, pale skin, stretched tight, reflecting the weak glow of the lanterns. Yet, somehow, it looked at them. They could feel its gaze, like heat against the back of the neck. Tomas's bravado crumbled. His breath hitched. The hum swelled, louder, vibrating the stone beneath their feet. The faceless figure tilted its head. The sound of bone cracking echoed, sharp and wrong, as though its spine hadn't moved in centuries. Then, behind it, more shadows stirred, more figures. Dozens. All faceless. All standing. All waiting. Elijah whispered a prayer. Marco grabbed Tomas's arm, but Tomas was frozen, staring. The faceless ones began to move. Not fast. Not slow. Just steady. Each step was silent, yet the mine groaned, beams shifting, walls tightening, as if the earth itself resented their presence. In terror, Tomas dropped his lantern. Flame hissed against the damp stone and died. Darkness swallowed them whole, and in that blackness, something cold brushed against his hand. Not Marco. Not Elijah. Something else. Its touch was clammy, damp, insistent. Fingers that shouldn't exist wrapped around his own, tugging him forward. The humming became voices, distinct words now. Whispers overlapping, impossible to understand. One phrase rose above the rest. Deeper. Come deeper. They ran, blind, stumbling, scraping against jagged walls. But the mine shifted. Paths that once led backward now twisted forward. Tunnels split and rejoined in ways that defied geometry. No matter how far they went, the faceless figures were always there. Sometimes ahead, sometimes behind, always watching. When rescuers finally returned weeks later, they found only one man, Elijah. Or what was left of him. He wandered near the surface, skin pale, eyes wide, muttering the same phrase over and over. Never below the 7th shaft. Never below the 7th shaft. His voice cracked with the effort. Lips split, throat. When they tried to calm him, to feed him, to ask where the others had gone, he only screamed. He screamed until his face seemed to stretch, the skin pulling tight, his features blurring, as if his body itself was trying to erase his humanity. He died before dawn. And yet, the humming remained. Locals swore that if you stood near the mine at night, pressed your ear to the ground, you could hear it. A vibration. A voice. A call. The government sealed the entrance. But seals don't hold forever. Concrete cracks. Steel rusts. Stone remembers. So I'll ask you this. If you were there, standing before the black mouth of the mine, hearing voices promising secrets and shadows offering answers, would you step past the seventh shaft? Would you risk your face, your name, your soul? Or would curiosity drag you down like it has so many before? Because the mine is still there, waiting, hungry, and rules, as we've learned, are made to be broken. You've just heard the story of in the sunken mine. One rule stood: never venture below the seventh shaft. If you made it this far, you're braver than most, or maybe just curious enough to follow the humming. But beware. Curiosity always comes with a price. And if you dare, click here for the next nightmare. A story even darker than this one. Something that makes the mind look merciful. I'll be waiting for you on the other side of the seventh shaft.